All right, welcome everyone. We'll just get started. My name is Breda O'Leary, and I am the Senior Instructional Designer at BiblioCommons. We're the folks who made your new catalog, events instance, and website, or software making the website. A lot of the people on the call right now are on the web team, or some of the people on the call right now are on the web team. And so this can work into, into kind of having an understanding of BiblioCoe as it pertains to web. You'll be building your website first before the general staff training. But you do need to have some kind of understanding of core so that you can use core with web. So this helps with that. And at the end, I'll be talking more about some of the specific features that integrate with web. But for those of you not on the web team, it can help to give an idea of what the catalog will look like, and start thinking about how you want to use it. And you might not be actively working on the website, but you might be involved in some ways in terms of readers advisory or cataloging, checking in on that. So this just helps to give an overview of core. So this is a high-level training that introduces the features of BiblioCoe as patrons and library staff can use them and what new uses they enable. The goal is to bring you into your online library and provide new ways to connect with your community and have more intuitive tools for patrons. We'll do more in-depth knowledge at the general training that we'll be doing in a few months. So no worries if you don't understand everything. This is not designed for you to understand everything. So again, don't feel worried if you don't fully understand something as you at the end. We're specifically not going over registration, preparing for launch, privacy settings, as well as a lot of the search features. This training is framed through different uses: finding material, managing borrowing, discovering new titles, connecting with patrons, and bringing your staff personality online. I'll talk a bit about BiblioCommons first. Our motto is love your online library, and the goal is to bring your staff personality online. Libraries are already doing amazing things, and this gives you a place to highlight them. And especially now where your online library is your library, where you kind of don't have the same ways to connect with patrons that you may have in the past. It's even more important to bring that enthusiasm into your online home. So the next few slides kind of juxtapose the physical and the digital. We've got Todd Parr reading the park at Pima County Public Library, and then annotations in the title records for Todd Parr books on the Pima Library catalog. Jason Reynolds reading at Skokie Public Library, and annotations on the title record for the Jason Reynolds book Ghost. Again, that same enthusiasm that you bring towards authors, towards your events, towards your displays, you can bring that to your online home. A Hamilton exhibit at Arapahoe Public Libraries, along with annotations on the original Broadway cast recording of Hamilton. And Rainbow Roll reading at St. Paul Public Library, again with annotations in the title record for the Rainbow Roll book Eleanor and Park. So we'll be looking at this, as I mentioned, through a few different lenses. To give your library a more welcoming online presence, how you can use it to find material, manage borrowing, discover new titles, and connect with patrons. Mostly on use, ways to be inspired by your new catalog, and start thinking of how you want your staff to engage with it. So we'll start with a preview. We'll be covering finding material more in depth, and just I guess as a heads up, this session is a bit more instance agnostic than your general training. Your general training will be done on your catalog, but as your catalog is still getting set up, and as many of you know, we're also setting up a second instance for consortium setup. I'm not quite sure of the full details, but again, your catalog is still in progress. So I'm going to be demoing a bit on your catalog, a bit on other catalogs, and the examples are going to be from a variety of catalogs. So you can find material with Smart Search, where you can search new ebooks and actually get results for new ebooks. Manage your borrowing, highlighting the most common actions and information. Discover new titles. There's a lot of really great discovery features that allow you to assist with readers advisory, with reference questions. You can also use lists, which are really great for readers advisory for different recommendations that someone might be looking for. And connect with patrons by having your personality online. You can have a profile, you can create lists, you can add comments, and just, again, really bring all that enthusiasm that you have for interacting with your patrons in your physical space to your digital home. On the title record, comments and list annotations that you make will show. Again, just really emphasizing that this is your library's online home. We can see this example from St. Paul Public Library, where under the opinion section, it's specifically highlighting content from St. Paul Public Library staff. And also share what you're interested in through your shelves, through adding comments. So we'll start with finding material. And we'll take a look at search both with how it can be used for patrons looking for a specific title and for patrons looking to browse for their next great read. Search prioritizes exact matches. There's relevancy rankings that highlight trending titles. We group manifestations of the same title together. Smart Search applies facets by format, audience, language, and new. And we also have true filters that make it easy to drill down, and a permalink that makes searches easy to share. When we look at our analytics, we find that patrons regularly keyword search terms like books, movies, and DVDs. And patrons use keyword search more than dropdowns or advanced search. They use search both to find exact matches and browse. So they might be looking for new teen fiction. They might be looking for The Fault in Our Stars. And it's also the first place that patrons go on a library website. We've done some user research with power users at Chicago Public Library, people who logged in at least once a week. And we stuck them in a room with no computers and asked them to draw the library website from memory. And overwhelmingly, it looked like search up in the top corner, and then the rest of the page, I have no idea. So if search is powerful, if search is the first place patrons are going, it needs to be powerful. It needs to help them find what they're looking for. Patrons learn searching from Google, from Facebook, from Amazon, from the entire rest of the web. And we believe they shouldn't have to learn a separate search just to use their public library. You can type in movies on Google and Amazon and get results for things that are actually movies. So I'm going to jump into a demo of searching. Just a quick moment while I get set up. So because you're getting BiblioWeb, the search bar is going to be collapsed, but it's over here, and you can just click it to open it up. There's pretty standard drop-down options or search types to a standard catalog, but something I'm going to emphasize today, and definitely even more in the training in a few months, is that keyword is what you'll use the majority of the time. It's really powerful. It's very likely to get relevant results, and there is a kind of process of retraining yourself to use the new software and working with what it does best rather than how you might have used another tool in the past. So often staff are used to keyword not being effective, and rather than kind of going through that frustration, you jump straight to something that you know works, like a search type or advanced search. BiblioCoe keyword is incredibly powerful, and you're going to be using it for a lot of title and author searches you might have had to use other tools for in the past. We have keyword search suggestions, and those provide the top search results stemming from the character you've entered. So I've typed in B, and we're getting a mix of titles and authors, both last name like CJ Box and first name Brian Stevenson. But when you actually enter a search term, we prioritize exact matches. So we're seeing items exactly called origin before we get to things called origins, or something that just has origin in the title. And we're also seeing the Dan Brown book at the top because it's popular, it's circulating highly. So it's the most popular title called Origin. And that goes off hold and checked out as an indicator of what's most likely to be popular in demand. And that goes off your library specific circulation data. There's also some good faceting options. So let's try James Patterson. So that once you're getting kind of the most relevant results, you can filter to what you're looking for specifically. So location being one example, and format as well. And I'll go much more into that in the general training. You can also note that I've done author search and keyword as first name, last name, and because these are popular authors, I'm getting results for books by that author. You'll also note that everything is grouped together by format, so we're seeing all the different ways to read or listen to the book Fault in Our Stars, The Fault in Our Stars, linked together, as well as turtles all the way down. And this is our group search. It's really good for accessibility and also for patrons who are format agnostic and might not have a strong preference on the format that they're looking for, but they are just interested in a specific title and want to compare. And so it's by available to unavailable. You can access the bib page or title record. We use those terms interchangeably, both by clicking on a specific format or by clicking on a title. And clicking on title is usually going to take you to the bib page for the book. And I'll cover this more in a little, but we've got this availability panel over here. You can see where it's on the shelves. You can place a hold. And when you switch between formats, you can see that it updates as well. Core assumes that what someone searches is exactly what they're looking for. So if they search it, they're likely looking for the Stephen King book or the film adaptation, rather than items that just contain it somewhere in the title, and this Pierce Brosnan movie that keeps coming up. Another example is up. So we're getting results for up exactly. And this extends to articles. Well, articles like the, etc. are important to a title. Search is going to prioritize the exact terms. So we're seeing the help at the top, the Catherine Stockett book and film adaptations. But when I search help, we're going to get the Beatles and other items exactly called help. The exception to these exact matches is format searches. If a patron searches a format like DVDs, search assumes that you're looking to see DVDs in the catalog rather than just a medium that contains DVDs somewhere in the title. And that's true on most of the web. People are used to search engines responding this way, but that isn't the case with a lot of library sites. So on BiblioCoe, when you search movies, we're getting all the movie formats, so DVD, downloadable video, Blu-ray disc. It automatically applies these facets, which you can see at the top. And it works for both for super format, something like movies, or a specific format like large print, which falls under the book super format. All of these can be combined with, so check something here, qualifying formats to drill down even further. The first being audience, which is age. So I can type in teen books, and we're getting all the book formats as well as teens. Or by language. So I can do Spanish DVDs. And then the word new, which pulls material only for the past 180 days. So we're getting past 180 days and ebooks. And then all these terms can be combined. So I can do new Spanish kids books. So we're going book, children, Spanish, and past 180 days. And then there's one more search term that's used, or smart search term that's used by itself, and that's all. And that's going to pull up everything you have. So just take a look at some of the other search tools and slides. We'll go over this more in depth in the larger training later. So filters and faceting. We saw that there's a filter along the sidebar earlier, and this has, it's designed to be more intuitive, so available now. You can separate by audience, and then there's also forms and genres, topic and regions, and these are the subject headings, but they're separated into components for easier faceting. So you can mix and match, and they also make sense to patrons who might not be familiar with subject headings, but they can understand what a form or a genre or a topic or a region is. You can also use them with active filters, and this will maintain the same selected facets for repeated keyword searches. So if I have a search for sharks and I've selected children, nonfiction, borrow and take home, and then a given library, and I set them to be active, and then I run the same search for robots, it's going to keep these filters active. Advanced search has two components. You can either use a query form, which is a free form text editor, or drop-down menus to construct your query. But one thing to note is that you can't edit it from the main search field. So once you've entered in your terms, you can't really mix and match or adjust it from this main page. You'd have to go back to advanced search. Advanced search, you can also use Boolean operators, which are and or not. Those do need to be capitalized, and that helps exclude what you think is going to be the most relevant result. So in this case, Potter, not Harry, we're excluding Harry Potter, which with a normal search for Potter would dominate the results. So a few search tips and tricks. You want to use keyword search as a default. It'll get the desired result majority of the time. And search types are mostly useful for when your desired result isn't favored by relevancy rankings, such as biographies versus autobiographies. You can use facets over advanced search to drill down, and the results will refresh each time you select, and it's easy to give and show patrons. And you can also use keyword search for exact call numbers and ISBNs. Just one moment. So next we'll look at managing your borrowing. You can place holds from search, from shelves, from title records, or lists created by your library, really anywhere a book appears. And physical and digital items are going to be on the same page. They're sorted into not ready, paused, in transit, and ready for pickup. You have the My Borrowing panel, and that shows a summary of holds, checked out, and fees. And hold is separated into different categories so that you can sort through them. And in transit, which is my favorite, has a cute little truck icon. There's an item capsule that shows relevant information and actions, so you can pause and cancel holds, add them to shelves. And pausing holds is a really great trick if you're going on vacation or just reading a series and want to kind of meter out your holds. And it maintains your place in line with it moving you forward. Depending on your ILS, you may have a date picker that allows you to choose start date, an end date, just an end date, or just on and off. It depends on the ILS. You can also manage holds with batch actions. And so for multiple items, you can select them with a checkbox. And then this bar is going to show up and it allows you to manage your holds. You can also add items to for later shelf as a reference. And then when you complete an action, it'll be confirmed with this feedback pop-up. The checked out page works similarly to the holds page. Physical and digital are going to be on the same page, and it is color coded, so due soon and due later. You can filter by physical and digital. And if you have checked out digital materials with Overdrive, it allows you to return them and pick a format to download. And for physical items, it highlights relevant actions you can renew. It's going to show it's overdue and basic bibliographic info. So next we'll look at discovering new titles. We have over 100 libraries and 8 million users. And anyone can add content to accounts, whether it's a staff or a patron. I'll navigate over to a title record and show, and I'm just going to do this on Chicago Public Library because I know they've got all their social content set up, and take a look at some of the social content. So we keep the title record deliberately sparse just to highlight what's most crucial. So again, navigating between formats. You've got a rating, the availability panel over here. A brief summary, we've got details, a full record. You can also pull up the mark display. We've also got the opinion section, which will pull in any critical reviews that you subscribe to and any list annotations you have or comments posted by library staff. And then below is community activity. I'll go over this much more in depth in the general training in a few months. Sorry, I'm so used to saying in-person training, but that's a bit in flux right now. So I have to reorient myself to say the general training we'll be doing. Community activity. So we've got comments, and community activity is really good if someone's asking about a title that you haven't read. You can see what other people thought about it. So comments, age ratings, which can be added by users of all ages. There is different functionality for users under 13, which I'll talk about much more in depth in the general training in a few months. And that's just to comply with privacy laws. Quotes, summaries, notices. Hobbit's pretty wholesome, so there's not a lot of notices about explicit content. And you also embed videos. And I'll just jump over to slides to look at the Explore Further panel. So the Explore Further panel links out to many ways to explore related material. So if someone's looking for read-alikes or just recommendations, this is going to be a better bet than kind of just combing through search. And as you get comfortable, you'll figure out the best use cases to go to search, the best use cases for other tools. So first we've got award winner, and those links out to pages that we maintain that archive all of the award winners for a given award. You can also pull up all your novelist content. Link over to subject headings. Lists, which we'll talk about in a moment, and those are just curated recommendations. You can create those and promote those on your own site, and that's going to be actually heavily used with BiblioWeb. It's a great way to highlight them, but you can also view lists created by others for recommendations. Tags, if you click them, it's going to show all of the tags, and then clicking on a certain tag is going to pull up a search for that tag, and I'll talk a bit more about tags in a moment. Tags dynamically group more than 100 items together. They're indexed and searchable. And there's a permanent URL that can be shared. You don't want to recreate information for the title page. It's an opportunity to be more subjective than subject headings and use approachable descriptive language. And I'll just show a few example tags. You can do a tag search up here. And this just pulls up all items that have that tag. So cozy mystery, dark is one of those popular tags. It's good just for things that people ask for that might not necessarily be covered by cataloging information, control vocabulary, especially things that are more subjective. Diverse voices. So next we'll look at ways to connect with patrons. Adding content makes the catalog yours, and really lists are really great for readers advisory. You can do custom lists and book match or your next great read, things where patrons can request custom recommendations, or use them as social content, use them to promote for your recommendations. Especially when you're creating your website, you're going to want to think about a lot of really great lists to create and to promote on the site. So that's good to work on in tandem between the website team and the readers advisory team. You can add comments, tags, and really create a welcoming staff profile. Comments add personality and library presence from the title record. And you can add them from title record or shelves, and comments made from staff accounts are highlighted on your catalog and emphasized on other catalogs. And it's good to show your perspective and create intrigue. So a middle-aged widowed ex-saint/accidental murderess goes on a road trip to find herself and ends up helping to fight off a demon invasion. Everyone who likes fantasy should read this book immediately. Lois McMaster Bujold is a wizard with words and a fresh breath of air in the Dudebro landscape of high fantasy. So you can see that in your catalog under the opinion section. List annotations and comments made on staff accounts show up in the opinion section. And then in all catalogs, comments made on staff accounts will be marked with your library's favicon and a block that says library staff. Best practices, you want to highlight hidden gems and comment from the heart. Don't overthink it. Think, how would you describe this title to a friend? And describe the reading experience rather than summarizing the plot. It's great to provide patrons with a why to try. Think, who would this appeal to? And don't be afraid to comment on titles you didn't like. It's good to offer thoughtful critiques. Think about appeals. This comment gives a rich, vivid picture of the world of the book. So the reading experience, Crazy Rich Asians is truly a guilty pleasure. What's in it? Sumptuous food, fashion, locales, culture, and characters. The plot, it's a classic significant other meets the parents and friends, and how was it? It fits the bill. So this comment is 2 lines long, but it really accomplishes everything that it needs to. Next, we'll look at lists. I've mentioned lists a few times, but they're just really great to curate recommendations, share library's personality, highlight your collection. There are 2 different kinds of lists, guides and recommendations. So we've got a pretty standard one here, which is the Endurance Time Travel. There's a good Doctor Who reference in the title. And If You Liked, which is for more read-alike, so books specifically similar to another book. They have separate interfaces, so once you've created one, it can't become the other and vice versa. But guides and recommendations have 6 different subtypes that help frame kind of how you're curating this list. So if you like, these are inspired by a particular title. They're aimed at patrons looking for a similar experience or read alike, and it's good to focus on unexpected linkages. So an example is, I want a book like Good Omens. All titles will relate back to that one core title, although they might have different things in common with Good Omens. One might be kind of apocalyptic themes, one might be odd couple protagonists, various sorts of things. Guides and recommendations. These are inspired by a particular topic and aimed at patrons looking for a certain genre or theme. It's a great opportunity to be specific and unique. So example might be, I'm interested in books that combine fantasy and humor. All titles relate back to that one core topic, theme, or motif. So Good Omens could be on that list because it combines fantasy and humor, but the list isn't about Good Omens. Anyone with an account can make a list, and staff lists are highlighted. They can be promoted on the new website, and it's easy to share recommendations with patrons. And there's a lot of opportunity for fun and creativity. It's good to build off trending titles. So if there's something that has a film adaptation made, or TV adaptation, or it's just really buzzworthy, people are likely to have either read it or that it's all checked out. And you can direct them towards other titles that they might enjoy. You can highlight different aspects of a title. So this list for Camino Island is really great because each item on the list picks up kind of a different thread of Camino Island that they might be interested in. It can explore social issues. So this list for Victio by Matthew Desmond uses it as a jumping off point to explore issues of housing security and gentrification. So we've got Tales of Two Americas, a $500 house in Detroit, and Making Rent in Bed-Stuy. You can be educational, lists like morbid microhistories that focus on death, disaster, destruction, and disease. So you've got Tale of Dueling Neurosurgeons and a cultural history of rabies. You can also do custom patron recommendations. So if you have something like Book Match, where patrons can fill out a form of what they're interested in and get custom recommendations. If it's an interesting enough topic and the patron consents, you might as well share it publicly. And it's also good to promote that as a program. And you also don't have to stick to books. This is Throwback Thursday to outdated tech and films, payphones, pagers, and Palm Pilots on mine. Another example is music's fiercest feuds and fallouts. And get niche, especially if you're doing a fantasy list. Something like Maybe They Can Hear You Sing in Space, science fiction and fantasy novels featuring music. You can explore genres and subgenres. So this list around Afrofuturism. Celebrate diversity. The library serves a lot of different people, and ultimately everyone just wants to see themselves reflected in what they're borrowing. And this can help highlight items in your collection that speak to all the people who use your library. You can educate on serious topics, like 13 books for teens that address gun violence. It's great to provide resources on something that might be in the news and that people might be looking for context to help understand the world they live in. And you can also have a lot of fun with cover art. This is Off With Your Head, books with covers that have people's bodies but not their heads. So if you notice an interesting trend in publishing, you can see that the cover art creates this lattice. And this is what's going to be promoting your list on your site when you start creating lists and featuring them on your Biblio website. So it's really good to look at cover art that's going to create an interesting lattice. And you can have a lot of fun with this as well. And you can also do lists for kids. This is 11 dinosaur books, books for lady nights, and Take a Deep Breath, books about yoga, mindfulness, and meditation for kids. I'm going to jump over to ShyPub and make a list and just demo the interface because you are going to be making lists kind of prior to the general training. And I'll log in, or you might not, but it's still good to kind of have an understanding. Also, if any questions come in, feel free to use Q&A, feel free to use chat. Happy to help. This is, a good opportunity for you guys to get up to speed if there's anything you're curious about, and take the opportunity to learn and ask questions. And I'll also open up the floor a bit more officially right at the end. So once I'm logged in, I'll go over to Lists from the account menu. And I create the same lists a lot, so I'm going to delete this one. So you can see that there's two different interfaces, guides and recommendations, and if you liked. They are fully separate interfaces, so just make sure you know which one you're making before you click. And then if you liked, you'll first have to choose your anchor title or the items that you're finding real likes for. So I can search the little prints and click Use This. And now you're ready to create the rest of your list. And you can add in a brief explanation. And you must add at least 4 items to your list before it can be published and shared, and that's just for quality control. You can do a straightforward catalog search for this. And it's the same keyword search that you see up top. And you can also search by author. That's good. So once you've got 4 items, you can publish. You can also rearrange things, both drag and drop and with the arrows. And annotations are really good just to show that you've put thought into why something's on the list. The main thing you want to keep in mind with lists is that they are curated recommendations. There should be thought into why each item is on the list, and they're designed for other people. It's not like a catch-all of your favorite things. Shelves is a lot better to use for that. And then once you're done, you can click Finish Editing and choose your publication scope. So defaults to everyone. You can also do people in a specific location, anyone with a link, or only you. And I would recommend doing everyone for any list you're going to promote. People in a specific location, it'll work the same for your site. It just means that it won't be discoverable for users outside your the geographic area that you select. So if it's something that's hyper-local, you can choose to do that. Anyone with a link, that's good to preview with a colleague if you want to, once your site's live, if you want to show it to a colleague before publishing. And only me, there's not much use. Another thing is that the draft editor auto saves, so you don't need to worry about losing your progress if you get pulled away. And it also helps kind of with creative flow as well. So I'll publish. And then I'm just going to delete this while I'm here. So now that you've added content, where does it go? Any content you have will appear on the title record for that item. So if you have a staff account, it's going to be posted more prominently. You can start thinking about your staff account strategy closer to launch about who you want to represent your library. Any content you add will appear on the title record for that item, as I mentioned, and it also connects to the recent activity page, your profile, which is public by default, your shelves, which are public by default, and your dashboard, which is private. Everyone has 3 shelves: completed, in progress, and for later. You can move items between shelves, add ratings, comments, or other community created content, use filters to drill down, place holds, and add material to shelves from search, lists, a title record, and basically anywhere you see a title. So I'm going to stick on Chicago Public Library for this one, just because it has my own personal shelves. And list shelves, everything I've just showed, they work the same on every library. So the functionality isn't going to differ across, across catalogs. And my shelves are a mix of my actual interests and things I've just kind of randomly thrown on there as demo content. So for later, this is good for marking things that you might be interested in reading in the future. You can also add tags, and that helps organize. So if I'm setting this aside for my kids, I can put that as a personal tag. You can also do things like themes. So this one would be candy, and that's going to show on the user-facing side. And then complete is what you have read. You can easily add content like comments, star ratings, tags, quotations. You can add videos that will play in browser, similar titles, private notes, which are always going to be private. So if someone recommends something and you want to note why they thought you'd like it, or if you have notes for a book club, you can add that there. It's always going to be private. You can add things like age suitability and content notices as well. So shelves versus lists. This is kind of a common misunderstanding, especially because a lot of libraries might have had, or the previous catalog might have referred to lists what we call shelves. Shelves are personal to you. They track what you as a human being are reading, watching, and listening to, and it's good to move items between shelves. You can add content like tags, comments, and lists that post directly to the title record. And you can easily filter by shelves as well. Lists are curated, and they're meant to be thematic or topic-based. They're designed for shareable recommendations and often geared to a particular audience or demographic, and there's a lot of opportunity for creativity. They're great for resources, reference, and diversifying circulation. So you can see shelves share your personal activity and interests with other users. You can highlight your thoughts and opinions on what you read, watch, and borrow. So add star ratings, add comments. But lists, again, I know I've said this many times, they're curated recommendations. You don't need to have read, watched, or listened to what's on your list. You can do kind of an interesting theme you've observed, like painted book covers, and there's a lot of ways to fudge annotations or kind of approach that curation even if you haven't read this title. The dashboard is your own personal home base. It shows items from your for later shelf, your recent activity, people you follow, and it's really great to direct patrons towards because it just kind of links out to everything they're looking for. And last but not least, staff profiles. So this is how you represent yourself to the community. If you're posting a lot of lists and comments, people can see your profile and link over to it. And this is kind of a great opportunity to show how you're approaching yourself as a curator, your professional persona, and people can customize rating scales and have a lot of fun with that. So Philip from Calgary, his rating scale goes from breathtaking 5 stars to half a star from the Vancouver Canucks. Craig from Central Rappahannock, his rating scale is food themed, so we've got pizza at the top and then dead rat at the bottom. Greg from Johnson County, his rating scale has Marvel movies at the top and DC movies at the bottom. So I'm next going to cover how BiblioCoe and BiblioWeb work together, but since this isn't as relevant for people not on the web team, I'll just give an opportunity to ask questions on anything I've gone over so far, and then if you're not, if you don't want to look at kind of how it relates to web, you're welcome to leave. So I'll just give a few moments for comments to come in or questions.
Britta, I had a quick question for you. One of the things you had mentioned was BiblioCoe uses true filters. Could you explain what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just jump over and do kind of a general search. So if I'm searching cats, this is actually maybe not the best example. If I'm doing a search for James Patterson and I select a filter, so select large print, it's going to refresh so that you're always seeing the exact number of results. So we can see that the results went down to roughly what shows over here. And you're not just clicking a bunch of things and then submit and getting 0 results. You always get kind of live updates of what pertains to this.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions specifically about core? And feel free to either raise your hand, I can grant you speaking access, or use Q&A in chat. Okay, I don't see anything coming in, but usually when I say that is when something comes in. So if you have a question, feel free to keep typing and I'll get to it. Or if you aren't as interested in web, feel free to take off and I'll cover next how it relates to web. So BiblioCoe and BiblioWeb work closely together. And there are some components in BiblioWeb that pull from BiblioCoe content. And this includes widgets in the WYSIWYG editor, what you see is what you get, cards, catalog carousels, and this is all going to make a lot more sense if you're on the web team when we actually go over these later this week. But it's just good to cover because it interfaces with core, and as you create these things, you're going to be using links in core to head out. So these widgets, the WYSIWYG editor, these are covered in the Learning Lab, which is our LMS under the sections for creating those. Add a title and embed a list. They're found in blogs, news, and standard pages, and they allow you to embed BiblioCoe content. So the add a title widget is mostly used for blogs and news, and it launches a catalog search of your core instance. So once you've found the title, it'll appear as a text link in the body text when you're editing. And then on the user-facing side, it appears as a block in the body text featuring cover art and author credits. You can also easily add to shelves in the post or access the bib page, and we're adding a whole button here as well. And the blog post will appear on the bib page for the title under the opinion section with other staff content like comments and list annotations. Embed a list pulls in a BiblioCoe list, which displays and links out to the list itself. And if you want to add a list, you just pull in the BiblioCoe permalink. Everything on BiblioCoe is a permalink. So if you copy the list, if you copy the list URL, it's going to pull in the exact list. If you copy a search URL, it's going to pull in the exact search. You can customize viewing options to make the list content as detailed or as sparse as you'd like. In the WYSIWYG editor, you get a rough preview of the list, and you can just edit your text around this. And then when you've published the content, it shows with cover art, the display options, and a link out to the list itself. So one example is Boston Public Library has created a blog to complement their Books for Podcast Fans list. And it allows them to add more content and link out as well. List and comment cards. List cards are added with a list permalink, which is the URL for the list on your BiblioCoe instance. The card information autofills, although you can still edit. And the cover art lattice becomes the default card image, so you want to make sure that you're getting good cover art. And then you'll just paste in the permalink and it pulls in the list. Catalog comment cards turn a BiblioCoe comment into a card, and you add them with a catalog comment permalink. And I'll just show accessing the permalink. Oh, that's not what I want. Oh, sorry. So you don't have the social content synced yet. So for comments, you can see over here, this links over to the permalink. Sorry, my home Wi-Fi is taking a little bit longer to load. And if you copy here, this is what's going to link to the comment with a comment card. There's no options to edit, but you can apply taxonomies, and we'll talk about taxonomies with cards a bit more tomorrow. And then again, the permalink we can just see over here. And then you paste this over there. Catalog carousels. So these are populated by a BiblioCoe search string, and it displays the top search results in a given BiblioCoe search. The true filters and the permalink means that any search you create, it's going to update with whatever matches those filters. So if you do something for kids nonfiction or kids science books, as you get new items in, it's going to update that carousel. And so that's really great for highlighting your collection in a low maintenance way. One note on the carousel URLs, and this will make a bit more sense tomorrow, is that, or sorry, on Thursday, to show the carousel title on the search results, you can add ampersand title equals what you want to call it to the end of the search string. You can type the case, the spacing, and the punctuation you want in the final title. So with this, which is a general permalink, just kind of ignore this noise. You can add ampersand title equals science resources for kids. You add it in kind of plain natural spelling. And then it changes what we see on this page to science resources for kids. And then when you link out from the catalog carousel, it just looks a bit more neater and polished. And that's what we have. Any questions? I'll stay online for a few more moments, and happy to help and answer. Okay, nothing seems to come in, but I'll see some of you tomorrow, and I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. And I will send out this recording in a follow-up.